Hello and welcome to the latest Business of the Business podcast. I'm your co-host, JP John Podgman, two-man power trip, of course. Joining me is the financial wrestling genius himself, the doctor, Mr. Lavie Margolin. Lavie, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, John. As we were developing the show today, it felt like the first headline would be the TNA record-breaking attendance, which we'll get to in depth, and that'll probably be our longest topic today, TNA. But then first I had a stretch topic, and then I had an even bigger stretch one. So I know they might feel buzzworthy or clickbaity, but what are you really clickbaiting on with us? You're here to enjoy the podcast. So we're going to have some fun, and I don't think either is out of the realm of possibility.
Now, this was a big one. Threw me for a loop. I know there are many Swifties out there. My daughter told me yesterday that she was a Swiftie. I didn't think she was that into hers, but she likes Taylor Swift. But what is going on with Taylor Swift and the WWE? Is this the possibility that Taylor Swift ends up in WWE, or are we looking more like Travis Kelce will end up in WWE?
Yeah, so maybe I have a Diary of a Showgirl too much on my mind as I took my daughter to the movies to see that instead of the Smashing Machine. But when Travis Kelce headlines started coming out that he told The Rock that he would love to be in WWE one day, he has an aerial act of some sort he'd like to perform. It made my mind think back to what was it? At least one Super Bowl, maybe two, where Taylor Swift was in the audience, or in the playoffs leading up to the Super Bowl, of course, as well. Where they Fox or whoever was airing it kept going back to her and just made it a bigger event than it could possibly be, drawing an audience that some people that aren't actually interested in the Super Bowl. And it just made me imagine, okay, Travis Kelce, yeah, that's good, whatever on that. But imagine if Taylor Swift is watching him in the audience, or even, accompanies him, or, imagine the headlines if this is WrestleMania in 2027 and Taylor Swift is in Saudi Arabia, and she's dressing more colloquially. You could get a lot of mileage out of this.
Man, that would be pretty crazy. But with TKO, let's be honest. I mean, TKO is bringing in Travis Scott. You know what I mean? They're bringing in big names all the time, people that are just famous. So why wouldn't she do it? You know what I mean? Just to maybe do a crossover. I mean, she's kind of been there, done that with a lot of other things, and why not just throw the hat into wrestling? Because TKO would probably, they would love that, and they would welcome that.
Yeah, for sure. And something that isn't talked about as much anymore. I'm not sure, like, the business machinations of it, if they cashed out or whatever it may be. I remember that when Endeavor was investing in the UFC, there was like a number of like celebrities that they represented who bought very small percentages as well, and sort of like kept them in the sphere of the UFC universe. So certainly they have the connections, and a call from Ari Emanuel would probably be recognized by Taylor Swift. I don't think that they've ever done business together, but it would seem like something really interesting. We know that, of course, and we've talked about it with Jeff Jarrett on the podcast, that there is the connection already with Jeff Jarrett, but I just don't see something like that in AEW, but maybe like a one-off thing for a WrestleMania. I was going to say, or like a television special, but they don't even do Saturday Night's Main Event anymore, and I don't see it on like the CW or for SmackDown.
Saturday Night's Main Event, it's still going. It's going to be on Peacock, though.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, in my
Oh, it
mind,
just won't
right,
be on NBC. Yeah, I got you.
yeah, old school. Like for me, I stopped complaining when companies announce TV deals and it's streaming now. But like, it's still, when I think television, it's if not the broadcast networks, at least cable. I know that's a little dated way of thinking, but I think a little bit swept under the rug there, a little bit of embarrassment that they couldn't stay on Saturday Night's Main Event and continue with Peacock at the same time, just because people poo-pooed that the ratings were fine, but they really weren't that great. And John Cena's retirement match isn't even making it onto NBC.
It's interesting, like the kind of dynamic, because if you look at how they did, you could say, oh, the ratings, well, nothing really is doing that great ratings wise. Not to make excuse, but nothing's making great ratings wise. But they did well as far as where they were in the top 10. So it's like, well, if you're still making the top 10 or the top five in some instances, well, then it's still pretty good. So I kind of heard a different aspect. So basically, they lose Peacock as far as WWE is concerned, and obviously, or Peacock loses WWE. So they were saying, how can we keep the WWE fans? And we'll just put Saturday night's main event. So it's like they're getting quote unquote pay per views or PLEs. So I heard like a different spin on it, which of course is what they would do, more of a positive spin, was that they didn't want to lose those people with Peacock. So what they're doing is they're teasing only Saturday night's main event. You can't watch it on NBC. You have to watch on Peacock. So they're almost telling you, if you're a wrestling fan, you need to keep Peacock, and not, even though you're losing all the PLEs, we're still giving you something. So it's kind of a weird, interesting spin, but I kind of was thinking, wow, that kind of does make sense in a certain aspect. How many fans would you have leaving wrestling fans who are like, oh, I'm going to ESPN, and they delete Peacock? Well, Peacock then teases you and says, well, the only way you can see Saturday night's main event is on Peacock. So I don't know, a little bit of give and take. I'm sure the ratings did play a little bit of a factor as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. There's always I think it is true on that side in terms of the demos and Saturday nights and whatever. But like, there are sports that break through that still do draw a mainstream audience, and things like Dancing with the Stars or whatever it may be. It's just something that we talk about every once in a while. Like, pro wrestling, like, is not mainstream. Once in a while, it crosses over with a Bad Bunny. If they were to be blessed with a Taylor Swift, it'd certainly cross over times two. But generally, like, the mainstream America, doesn't care for pro wrestling. And I'm sorry to say that, there's been certain times, certainly with the great Hulk Hogan crossing it over with the Attitude Era, but it's just not, we live in a world of niches, and it's not a mainstream thing. And, the NFL is.
Now, it's interesting, like if you look at ratings and stuff, like, so WWE does better than regular season NBA, does better than regular season hockey by a lot, does better than a lot of baseball. So it's kind of interesting kind of where that falls in the ratings bracket. People were kind of, slighting WWE or make fun of them. Well, where are you when, we're talking about regular season MLB or regular season basketball or regular season hockey? I know it's just regular season, but just kind of goes to show you in the pecking order, nobody touches football. Football kills everybody. But then WWE's not that far as regular season baseball, basketball, hockey, and obviously if you took WNBA, it kills WNBA. But it's just an interesting thing when you tie it in with other sports.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm not sure if anyone ever like reports on it in this way, like, I feel with the big four. I'm not sure if hockey is there or not anymore.
Yeah,
But big three or big four, like, what is their aggregate ratings, right? Like, you have all these less so now regional sports, but like the apps or whatever it may be. Like, if you were to take regular season games for every team, like, and you add that together, I think that gives you a better picture, at least in those markets, like, as to interest in the sports. Because like a Knicks game, Rangers game, if they're doing well, it tends to have a lot of viewers in New York. Whereas like somebody watching Detroit against Pittsburgh, if they have like huge stars at that time, then people will watch. But some people are like, I love hockey, I love the Rangers, but that's basically what I have time to watch, as opposed to like, the game of the week. And I know when the NBA was very popular, that you'd have those NBA on NBC, and it would certainly be an event. That is something to think about.
When you're looking at the interesting world of WWE right now, and we saw obviously, talking about Saturday's main event, Goldberg was a part of Saturday night's main event, and that was basically his retirement match. So we think his retirement match. So we're saying, but he's recently said maybe not. Is he going to have a final match in Israel of all places? What is the latest on Goldberg? Is this true?
Yeah, so just kind of speculation on this, that Goldberg wasn't satisfied with the with his retirement in WWE, especially. I think the match was fine, but certainly, as we remember, they counted down as he was talking in the ring. I'm not sure if they really wouldn't have been able to extend it. I think on talking about NBC, but something was off there. And then very fast he started saying that I don't want to put words in his mouth, right? But that he could have another match or whatever it may be. It made me think back to his interest in wrestling in Israel, and thankfully, with some difficulty, there's a ceasefire now, and hopefully it will hold. That maybe he can have a match in Israel, and I think it would be a really good thing, not only for him, but I think it'd be really popular in the country, and what it would do for people, to have that opportunity. I'll do anything for my faith. Truth be told, my dream was to have my retirement match in Israel. Quite obviously, because of the surroundings right now and over the past 5 years, it's just been the right place to do so. I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that I was sorely disappointed that I couldn't do something in Israel, but retired doesn't mean dead. I'd be honored to go out there at some point. I really would. Never say never, but we've been trying to do it for the past number of years and it didn't work out. Fingers crossed, that's all you can do. Goldberg was previously linked to a match against Sting in Israel as part of a retirement tour, but that match never materialized.
Crazy. I know the person that was putting that together, and that was actually coming together with Sting and Goldberg in Israel. And obviously a lot of different things happened over there and kind of, threw that by the wayside. So people saying like, oh, that's not true. I actually spoken to a couple of people that were involved. That was actually going to happen, which is nuts. But I don't know if AEW would have let that happen. But there was there was a plan in place where both guys were agreeing to it. Just particulars weren't all laid. That was true about Goldberg. So he's been wanting to do a match in Israel for quite some time now.
Yeah. So I think if it seemed like there was difficulties to make it happen beforehand, but if the timing is right, I think obviously the government has other priorities right now, but part of it is to sort of, I think, positive stories and so on. And I think it would be really popular in Israel and depending on the media outlet, in the US, around the world as well. So I think it would be a good thing for them to consider.
All right, Lavie. Biggest story of the week right here. What is the final number for TNA Bound for Glory? They said they did it. They set an all-time North attendance record. What was the number? Is that number accurate? Because I see that you had another number down there. So what's going on with TNA and Bound for Glory?
Yeah, so we don't know yet. Sorry, 1 second.
Because the number out there, 7,794, but then you had sent me a different number here, somewhere in the 6,400 range. So I'm just kind of curious what the real number could be.
So, right. So they announced, TNA had announced 7,794. Ross Foreman, their PR, their official account, Anthem published it on LinkedIn. And then it was interesting that Nicole Racine, Senior Vice President of Sales, who is focused on the partnership, they were sort of let's see. TNA sets a new record, Bound for Glory, and continues to build momentum. On Saturday, October 12th, TNA's Bound for Glory shattered records, drawing 7,794. This milestone reflects the incredible momentum driving TNA forward, from sold-out live events and growing international audiences to rapid adoption of our TNA Plus OTT platforms. Leading that growth is Senior Vice President of Sales, Nicole Racine, who is setting a new standard for how brands connect with passion. Sorry, John. I just need 1 second to pause.
Yeah, no problem at all. So it's very interesting and kind of just one of those things where they are setting the attendance record, but as we know in the wrestling fandom, in the wrestling fan base, there will be people that will always go against maybe the grain and say, no, that's not the real attendance figure. We know that from all the way from WrestleMania 3, where people were arguing the WrestleMania 3 attendance, arguing even, of course, AEW's attendance, and different things. So it's not new to be kind of arguing, or not really arguing, but kind of saying something different than what the company sends out. Even heard as of recently, as far as All In Texas for AEW, that AEW didn't want the number getting out there for whatever reason, even though I think it was 23,000 people in attendance. They didn't want that number kind of getting out there and being put out as far as the real number for some reason. I'm not really sure. Maybe because they were planning on saying it was a bigger number. I'm not too sure about that, but I feel like that's always a give and take with the fan base and the companies and people out there that are covering the business. The attendance, what is it really? And then the company puts out a number, and then there's like kind of a pullback or drawback without the actual number.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're waiting on is the WrestleTix final accounting of things. This will hopefully we get that, but 6,049 tickets was what they had in the morning of the show. Things were surging up. 1,208 tickets moved. They had a setup of 6,488. So there was room to max out for more. I was looking at it in the later afternoon, and there were still tickets available. So we know that there is some, I don't know if it's considered box seating, but some unique seating, at the top that wouldn't be accounted for. So that's something to consider. Like for me, I think it's I can't say one way or another, what's going to be the final accurate count. Most wrestling tickets and for a lot of events, the final accounting number includes comps, and that's a standard thing. I do feel like there were a fair amount of comps if this was the final number. So a few things to sort out, but uniquely, there's the use of YouTubers. BDE is the a YouTube influencer was used, and they were involved in promoting the events, which interestingly crosses over to basically the presidential election, where using alternative forms of media and so on to get attention was very successful for Trump, through Dana White and suggestion of Trump's youngest son as well, which is a whole nother story. So kudos to them on utilizing that. What else? So that's the attendance breaker apparently there for North America. So that's that story. Now Genesis, of course, will be taking place in Dallas, or the Dallas area. I don't have more information on that. I'm assuming the Curtis Colwell Center, which is in the general vicinity, I think 30 miles outside of Dallas, which has a capacity of 6,860 with fixed seats, potentially 8,500 standing. So if they want to break that record again, potentially how they set things up, they can do that. Our friend John Pollock at Post Wrestling has has a story on TNA, so I just wanted to share some excerpts on that, which were really interesting. He had a lot of the backstory on things throughout the years, but I want to focus on some of the elements moving forward. TNA's final pay-per-view showcased the best and worst of the promotion, with 2.5 months and a pair of TNA Plus specials on the calendar. The company is in a semi-holding pattern as murmurs of a forthcoming media rights deal persist, straight from the mouth of Carlos Silva. Bound for Glory was the 21st edition, beginning 2005. The last 18 months have seen TNA achieve levels not seen since its peak on Spike TV, when it was profitable entity before the signings of Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, and so on. Often it's a case of TNA shooting itself in the foot when it's good things going. Last January, TNA rebranding was surprisingly met with a lot of positivity and, more importantly, aided in the business of its Hard to Kill event in Vegas. Riding the wave of the show, there was a power play and D'Amore was left on the outs, the person many associated with the brand and one of the few links to the history. Talent and fans viewed TNA and its management as the bad guys, and it was thought that any newfound momentum just evaporated. But along comes its unlikely partnership with WWE, and quickly momentum was restored. WWE saw a useful function for the smaller group, primarily as a tool for its NXT brand, whether it was seeing TNA as another bullet to insert in the chamber as a weapon against AEW, a bridge to inject TNA's stars onto its own platform, or to win some easy points as an ally and play nice with another company. The result has been a positive one for both sides. TNA has seen its attendance and relevance grow. Its stars have come off as such on TNA programming. There's a constant back and forth collaboration, and TNA has created fresh matchups and stories with the tried and true concept of a rival brand infiltrating the home team's turf. So far, Jordan Grace has already made the switch, and Joe Henry feels like he is someone on his very last legs in TNA, wrapping up with recent jobs on television and not featured on TNA's big shows. For TNA, whether they entered this relationship with their eyes wide open to the historical lessons of working with WWE and how many companies have fared, or were naive from the jump, it was a stage where they had to make the gamble and accept any collateral damage along the way. In the US, the market is dominated by two brands, with one superpower in WWE and TNA a distant third. While it's a catchy and SEO-friendly headline to assume TNA will overtake AEW, it's not backed by any data that would suggest TNA will be on an even playing field with the WWE's worldwide group that has a $185 million annual broadcast agreement. While that may be the desire of WWE to push that narrative and use TNA as a proxy, it should not be TNA's goal. Rather, it's a company that should be aiming for its best television deal possible and inching towards profitability after nearly a decade of Anthem-funded losses. It comes with the caveat that TNA cannot be assessed as a traditional P&L project, which is using TNA programming to funnel its broadcast properties and earn other values from this acquisition beyond whether a show makes or loses money. Where TNA is not enjoying success is the wrestling TV rights bubble, which is in a precarious spot with the introduction of Big Data Plus panel, which has disrupted core programming. Anthem's purchase of TNA Access occurred as the cable was slowly eroding, and this trend has intensified. Viewership isn't even available publicly as a metric. Bound for Glory boasts an impressive 7794. It sounds impressive, but comes with a caution that's a company release number and was 28% higher than the last reported figure by WrestleTix. It is still a tremendous number to draw on Lowell. NXT Heatwave drew only less than 2,000 in the Lowell Memorial Auditorium, and so on. So really a deep article that you should seek out by John Pollock.
Always does some great stuff. Be interesting to find that final number total. But right now, 7794, it is a record for TNA, their largest North American gate. Now, what is going on? Speaking of North America, speaking of wrestling companies here, what is going on with New Japan Pro Wrestling and coming back to America?
Yeah, just when you thought they were out, they're back in, right from The Godfather. So New Japan with a pretty ambitious undertaking here, the Cure Insurance Arena in Trenton, New Jersey, Friday, February 27th. So 4 months away. And that venue is semi-major arena, had been frequented by WWE throughout the years. I remember going to an ADCC all the way out there, taking the train, and asking the people when I get off the train stop, should I walk there or is it safe? And they're like, no, and I assume these were locals who work there. No, don't walk. Take a cab there. So it kind of feels like, it's obviously it's New Jersey, but a little bit far out from the New York City area to unless you're really inspired to commute there. John, have you been to that venue?
Yes, a couple times. Actually, a couple of years ago, it was kind of the Cody Rhodes return to WWE when they had that house show there in Trenton. Great venue. Say what you want about the area of Trenton, but the venue is great. I think it's great. All the seats are great. And that day, Cody Rhodes brought a sellout to the Cure Arena there. I don't know if New Japan will quite necessarily reach that peak, but hopefully they do well there. But Cody Rhodes' house show did get great business.
Yeah, so with the right draw, so hopefully they have something interesting or unique up their sleeves, because I think the general shows outside of Tanahashi's retirement in America, which obviously you can only do once, and I don't think there's something else replicable. Otherwise it would be a struggle.
What is going on in GCW? Because I see here maybe Brett is letting the curtain go a little bit, or maybe he has made up with Violent J of ICP. What's going on with Game Changer Wrestling and our buddy Brett Lauderdale?
Yeah, so Brett had tweeted on October 13th, now that the dust has cleared, I just want to say how cool it was to work with Violent J and JCW Lunacy over the past year. I went to ICP concerts at Dome Arena and Rochester as a teen, but the Stranglemania tapes changed my life. Thank you, Jay, Rudy, Bill, and the amazing psychopathic crew. So we, of course, were lucky to have not only Brett on, but Violent J unexpectedly in Brett's last appearance. And, they were working the rivalry for us, and I haven't seen any clips, nor have I sought them out, but apparently Violent J was set on fire during the last show in New Jersey. But like I talked about, maybe it was like a little bit of a data perspective on the influence of ICP. I don't know. Like I thought it was going to be bigger than it was, but I think it's hard to work that angle where ICP and GCW fans don't like each other. I thought you could have done like some unique stuff with that, like have the fans sit separately and really, get something going there, especially at the gathering of the Juggalos. But it was something, but it didn't seem to draw or carry over, in any way that I expected. But it's good to do unique things, but it's probably run its course. And just one more note, typically we cover every GCW show. We'll take a little bit of a break from that this week, but I just wanted to note that Rochester on October 24th is showing some nice momentum, a very solid market for them, as they're almost sold out of the fifth row, and we'll see how many more rows that they add. But unique marketing there with Shotzi Blackheart and like connections to Halloween.
Interesting stuff there. Maybe Brett kind of make it up maybe with Violent J, or maybe maybe they were working us a little bit, but they're definitely okay now as far as JCW and GCW are concerned, going back to ICP.
Yeah, so let's see. I think GCW, might have to. You know what I wanted to talk about actually is Alley Catch is healthy and wrestling again, but I haven't seen her cross over into GCW. So that is just something to watch, because obviously she got injured at the Hammerstein. It was really the main angle. Not her injury, of course, which was real, but her match and rivalry, with the champion, now champion, was really, a main compelling element of that show. And you would think that she would cross over there first. So have to see with that. And I don't think Masha has wrestled at all since the controversy hit of allegations of domestic violence, and all of that. Since that time, her last match here, according to Cage Match at least, was on September 20th. So for totally different reasons, important to watch to see what happens with both in GCW, because there really have been both two of the major stars at different points.
What is going on in the world of WoW? I know you were dying to talk about Jeanie Buss this week. What's going on?
Yeah, so starting with Taylor and finishing with Jeanie Buss here. to Jeanie Buss, in terms of PR and forward facing her role in WoW as sort of like as this opportunity maker for women in pro wrestling and all of that. So Buss invoked her mentor, Billie Jean King, and King's passionate campaign for Title IX, its impact on equity for women's sports, and how that must be protected, which drew applause. So she was at an event. Unfortunately, I should have kept track of which event, but women in sports centric event, apparently. I have invested in creating opportunities for women in sports. I have the only all-female wrestling league called WOW, Women of Wrestling. It's in syndication. I got involved in that because there's so many athletes that graduate after their college eligibility is done. What can they do to earn money? We teach them how to wrestle. Field hockey players, swimmers, whatever. Great athletes are great athletes. You can teach them to do anything. Let them perform. So we just need to continue to invest in youth female sports, keep the women participating.
Interesting with WoW. We were talking about it last week. I can't believe 25 years of WoW. You know what I mean? Just kind of crazy.
Yeah, it really is. It's been on and off depending on the opportunity, but Jeanie Buss has supported it, and Dave McLean has continued to be involved and to push that vision. So it's not for everyone, and it's probably not for most people that are listening, because it's generally not like a mainstream pro wrestling product, but it has its place, or at least in the mind of Jeanie Buss, it does, and it's worth supporting. We don't know if it's profitable or not, but it keeps going, and it's really, with the syndication in its fourth year now, it's found its niche.
Lavie, got to bring this up to you because very near and dear to our heart here. The WWE Holiday Tour, I don't know if you saw this for Raw and SmackDown, they announced 10 more live event dates. And because MSG will have John Cena's last Raw on November 17th, they're not doing the annual holiday show. I'm not happy about it. I don't think my son's going to be happy about that either. So on the 26th, the holiday show moves from MSG to Baltimore, Maryland, about 2.5 hours away from me. So I don't quite know about that drive. I'm not sure if I want to do that or not. But, man, no MSG this year for December 26th, day after Christmas. The tradition is over. Lavie, I don't know if you saw this, heard about this. How do you feel about this?
No, I hadn't seen that yet. Yeah, that is disappointing, but it does make sense, especially when you see what the tickets are going for John Cena's last match. I was curious, as the prices have increased so much, what they would look like for the Christmas holiday show. So, it's always a fun event. Like we've talked about in the show, my son, in comparing that to a very small show in Yonkers, about a half a year later, really preferred just being first or second row and just enjoying the experience there. So I probably would have gone, at least myself, just because I like the feel of the show. But it just makes sense for the market and timing in this one-off John Cena event.
Man, kind of crazy, to think that tradition is over, but I kind of had that feeling just because they were doing that show November 17th. Would they really come back? I mean, this is an old school MSG where they run there once a month. I mean, would they really do a month later? Probably not. So kind of stinks in some aspects. I don't know about Baltimore. That's quite a hike getting there, although I'm sure there'll be no traffic that day. I wouldn't hope, but I don't know. That's quite the hike there. Man, and the John Cena tickets, I don't know if you saw how much they are for the Washington, D.C. show, the Saturday Night's Main Event show on 12/13. I saw the cheapest ticket all the way up in the cheapie seats with $350. So obviously, those tickets are pretty expensive. The Raw seats for November 17th are pretty expensive, but about what they were, I would say, for the last Raw that was at MSG, maybe a little bit more. So, it's still pretty expensive, but looks like the Washington, D.C. show is going to cost you about $100 more for worse seats.
Yeah, it's a moment, and they probably will be smart and have like special merchandise for that. I'm not sure if they're already doing it, right? Like for this, since it was announced that there's this countdown, they probably are. But you can not only maximize the gate, but maximize the revenue. It's already being televised, as we've talked about, going full circle right on Peacock. But if there was an opportunity for at least cutting in or televising, sort of like maybe like what VH1 or something would do, like if there was like a classic tour that was coming back, they'd be like, we're live in East Rutherford, New Jersey, we're gonna hear Springsteen and the E Street Band play Atlantic City, or whatever it may be, and then they're in and they're out, like kind of like cool cut in moments. I don't think there's any plans to do those sort of things, but when you have these unique experiences that aren't being captured, I think there are opportunities there.
I think you might make the trip to Maryland. I have a feeling, or maybe you'll go to Rochester. They're there on the 28th for the holiday tour, so they'll be there. Maybe you'll do that. I don't know.
I am familiar now with the Amtrak having taken it all the way up to Buffalo, but it does seem like a lot.
So just to throw us out there, the other dates. So the 26th, Baltimore, Maryland. The 27th, one part of the tour will be in Tampa. The other part will be in Pittsburgh. Then the 28th, one part will be in Rochester, New York, and the other part of the tour, obviously splitting up into Raw and SmackDown, will be in Jacksonville, Florida. Just last year, by the way, they were in Jacksonville. So interesting stuff from the holiday tour in WWE, shaking things up around here. Lavie, they're shaking it up as far as changing times and dates and places here for the holiday tour that we're maybe expected some tradition, and they're getting rid of that tradition.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, but I feel like they've been in Baltimore before, especially when they've been doing the split shows in recent years, and I don't think it has done that well. I could be thinking of the wrong city, but sometimes it's just a matter of timing and availability, and it's just generally a really good draw on something. If they're going to do any house shows at all, certainly the holiday season is a good one. I guess, like, Baltimore certainly has its own distinction, its own city, but it's not too far outside of Washington, D.C. So if you're like, okay, it's a lot to run New York twice, maybe it's somewhat of a lot to run Baltimore after just running DC, but I think they'll do fine at the end of the day.
Who's John Cena's last match? Who's it going to be against? People keep throwing Edge out there, even though I guess he's under AEW contract still. People are throwing out there Gunther and Dominic Mysterio and Braun Breaker and all these Lesnar rematch. Well, who's left?
Yeah, I guess, you want him to go out on top. So I guess Lesnar, right, if they keep getting him these wins, you don't want to waste that, but maybe you'll just be like, it's a one-time thing. Is Randy Orton healthy?
That's the thing. He is, because he's been wrestling, but they kind of been there and done that with Orton, with that had their little feud back at Backlash. So I don't know if they'll go back to that well or not. Plus Cena was doing the RKO recently, kind of like a love letter to Orton. So I don't know if they would go back to that well or not on Orton.
That's a tough question. I haven't been following it enough. Like, are there people Cena has talked about over the years that he's been really close with who are still involved, or might be in the position where they could come back and perform?
I don't know, because people were saying Edge or Jericho, but Jericho's not free until January 1st, and Edge, I think, is still under contract with AEW as far as I know. So I'm not sure who else is kind of left out there.
Jericho would be interesting.
Yeah.
In theory, you could work something out, but I don't know if allowing Andrade to to start working early is an even trade-off. So there's obviously a lot of bad blood.
Right, that's the rumor out there. Hey, we'll let Andrade work now instead of going through 90 days or even a year, which is kind of crazy, because I heard that could be a possibility too. And then we'll trade it for a Edge trade-off. So I don't know. I don't know if AEW would do that.
I think it's sort of like it's about Cena, and as long as it's someone viable, like Cody Rhodes or whomever, it doesn't have to be a deeply personal story about them both. I guess there's a lot more depth to it if you do, but somebody that I think you'd want to have an older performer, just because it a throwback to something like that. Or I guess you could have somebody newer where you're making them and they get really close to beating Cena And that sort of makes them in a way. Who did Cena debut against on television?
Kurt Angle, wasn't it?
Kurt Angle. Okay, so that's not that wouldn't be healthy for that. So yeah, I don't know if I have the answer, but I am intrigued. I'm not a Peacock subscriber, so I'll have to see the clips and read about it.
All right, we will keep our eyes and ears open for the John Cena final match, see who he's wrestling, and see how well the tickets sell for that show as well. So let's wrap up this bad boy and head towards the plugs. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2manpowertrip. How about you, Lavie?
Follow me on X, Lavie Marg, Lavie Marg. Join our LinkedIn group, The Business of the Business, and check out my long-form articles on lioncubjobsearch.com. I've even added some recent career advice, which I haven't written about in a while.
Nice, love it. All right, Lavie, thank you everybody out there for listening. See you right back here next time for the Business of the Business.